Damn. What is up, my internet friends? Welcome. Wow. Can you believe it? I could say anything. It really doesn't feel like it matters what I say. It matters and it does not. It matters and it doesn't. Look at this. I'm thinking a lot really fast. I'm thinking really fast, faster than I'm talking. And I want to get focused. Bam. I want to get focused to the point where I'm not thinking much more than I'm speaking. Focus in on the act of speaking so that I can... What I want to do is really investigate just this phenomenon of speaking, and particularly the sense of agency attached to it and the intention attached to it. I feel interested in trying to operate from a realm where individual agency and intention are not totally as solid as they tend to appear most of the time, as they tend to seem. I need to deliver you the goods. I'm unfocused. I feel unfocused. But here's the thing. Yesterday, I was thinking a lot about focus. And I have this thought that becoming focused on anything is really where you get the really good stuff out of life. Like everything good in life seems like it's a result of focus sometimes. But at the same time, and so this was causing me some concern, because I'm like, okay, what do I focus on then? What should I focus on? There's a number of things. Like, do I just focus on what I am doing right now? Do I focus on the thing that I have done the most so far in my life? You know, like, if I attach focus to duration or repetition, or is focus just attached to the present moment? And also, the question is, it's like, the thing is, on the surface level, it seems like it's fairly easy to make distinctions about where to delimit a object of focus. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, like, if I'm like, say I want to, I don't know, like, just say, for example, that I want to focus on walking and talking. That's pretty simple. That is actually pretty simple. I could just every day go outside and make a walking and talking video. That seems like it would create focus. But I imagine that if I do that, within that, there's gonna be questions of focus. Like, well, okay. So I'm currently walking and talking. I'm doing a thing that I could be focused on. But now, even within that, it's like I'm talking about needing to become mentally focused. And this is a really subjective definition, you know? Like, in terms of this activity, what would it mean to be focused? What would it mean to be focused beyond just having this experience and doing this activity of continuing to walk and talk for 4 hours? I guess it's just, because it's not like I would want to limit my activity to say just repeating the same word over and over again. No. I want to keep talking in a quote-unquote natural way that is allowing one thought to lead to the next. Maybe it's that I don't want to be jumping too suddenly in between different topics to be able to delve in depth into something. But of course, that's still subjective. I mean, I was going to say that maybe what I want is not to have difficult or painful emotional experiences linked towards thoughts or mental dissonance happening. Well, that's not exactly it either. It's not that I necessarily want an entirely pleasant experience. Because I know a thing or two about the nature of pleasure. Enough to know that it doesn't really work in the long run. I'm pretty certain of that. The more I think about it, the more certain I feel that all that matters here is that I walk and talk for 4 hours. And nothing more. I really consider things a lot. I think a lot about what I should do. You know, with my life. I consider it, I give it a great deal of consideration what to do with my life. And so far, all that consideration leads me to continue doing this, or it at least leads me to do this right now at this moment. But if you ask me if I feel committed to this, I would say no. I would say if at any moment it became clear to me that I should be doing something else with my time, then I would do that. And many times, that's in fact what I do. Other things with my time. And in those times, you don't see me on YouTube. But you look at my YouTube channel, you see lots of lots of time in one place, lots of time doing one thing. And you think this guy only does this. But it's just that all this time is consolidated and represented in one place. And it's really silly, because like I know there are many other YouTubers that spend more time on making their videos than I do, you know, with production and editing and writing and things like that. They do things like that, and they spend way more time than I spend, but it results just in shorter videos. And people don't tell them you're wasting your life. People don't tell them you need to get a job and a girlfriend. What the fuck? Give me a effing break. This is my job and my girlfriend. At least at the moment, you know? At least at the moment while I'm doing it. For me, doing things like extending those sorts of categorical concepts far into the future and the past has not been very helpful for me. You know, that is thinking in terms of I'm definitely going to do just this for the rest of my life, or I'm completely committed to this one thing. That just hasn't worked for me very well, just in terms of my personal experience of time. For me, it just works much more to be like, I'm doing this right now. And if that works well enough in some particular framework, you know, towards cultivating, you know, something like we could call well-being in scare quotes, not square quotes. Because, you know, I'll probably have to put an asterisk on well-being and return to that later. Hey, there's a cool bug right on top of the camera. I'm sorry you can't see it, but that's kind of like, the camera is kind of like your head because you can't see it. the camera is effectively your head right now. It's and actually scratch what I just said. Scratch it. Forget I said that. It's not that I do this because I don't do this because it contributes to my well-being, even though it does. I just do it because I do it. It's a thing that I just keep doing. And that's all. I just do it. Check it out, a YouTube URL. Maybe, I don't know if I can read all of that. It's just that the gaining ideas just don't work for me. I mean, they still kind of exist in my mind to a certain extent and are probably attached to some of my behaviors. But by and large, gaining ideas in my mind is really connected with suffering for me. And I know this sounds maybe a little bit dogmatic. Maybe it sounds maybe this sounds a little bit like a Buddhism cliche or something. But I can really say that it's that I feel the most sort of at home in reality when I'm behaving without any concept, without any kind of gaining idea. And that means not thinking about improving myself, not thinking about improving my mood, or not thinking about changing my emotional state in any way. Fuck you. Not thinking about benefiting the world, because when I understand from my firsthand experience, my subjective experience, that this is the kind of state that feels like home for me, and that it really is not really attached to particular circumstances. It's not connected to the material. It's not connected to the conceptual, really. I mean, it has a relation with the conceptual and the material, which maybe hopefully I can get into later. But at the core of it, it's not a sort of thing that can be helped or hurt by things going on. And in light of that, this idea of trying to help other people takes a different type of valence or meaning, or like or maybe, you know, it maybe empties it a little bit of its solidness, or its fundamentalness. It's not that help and harm aren't real things. They're certainly very real, as much as things like suffering are totally real. But it's more, I don't know, it's something like trying to get to a place that is somehow beyond the planes of like happiness and suffering, or something like that. I don't know. Hey, a shooting range. I should come back here. Well, now I feel like I've said so many things which could really be elaborated in depth already, if I can go back and remember some of those asterisks. Oh yeah, well-being. I mean, like, could I possibly define well-being? I mean, I guess well-being would be the absence of negative emotions, but also the thing about emotions is that what we think of as the positive and the negative emotions are so linked. They're so incredibly linked to each other. And it's really would be really hard for me to say with any kind of confidence that it's possible in one's life to cultivate like a majority of positive emotions without an equal measure of negative ones. Maybe I'm wrong. But in my experience, they really seem to go hand in hand, just like kind of dispersed temporally, you know? But then that brings up another thing to consider, is like the sort of linear temporal dispersion of human experience, which I might say is is necessary for feeling emotion. Well, Chout. Everybody chout now. But I mean, like, you know, you must be... Chout now. You must be familiar with, like, mood swings. You probably know somebody who gets super excited and giddy and manic at one point, and then after a little while they crash and become super cranky or depressed and negative. To me, I feel like all of those strong emotions, whether positive or negative, it seems like they're kind of dependent on like a really strong feeling of linear time, of thinking about past and future. Because, like, if I'm feeling depressed, it's usually coincident with a lot of negative thoughts. All of these thoughts being abstracted from the present moment, and, you know, thinking about my past or my future as this abstraction, and thinking about the past and future as these very real things, you know. And in a depressed state, it's like the future, you know, it's like horrible things have happened in the past and horrible things are going to happen in the future, sort of thing, you know. And you know, maybe it could be about my life, like, oh, I'll never be happy again, or life is only suffering, thinking about, you know, this the potential years of misery ahead of me and the years of misery behind me. And so it really kind of feels as if like this linear time, like it's as if the past and the future are just like dominating my experience in a way that, you know, in an oppressive way that I can't escape. Now that's one way of describing the experience. But then also like strongly, and then it can happen in the inverse way of like strongly positive emotions, like really strong positive emotions are probably linked with some idea of like, oh, the future is looking good, you know, some prospects for improvement and happiness in the future. Things are looking up, or there's a lot of possibility for the future, that sort of thing. Or looking at the past of oneself and feeling positively identified with the life narrative. Like, I've done this, I've accomplished this and that in my life. I'm a solid person, that sort of feeling. But again, it's like an experience that's dominated by the past and the future. I don't know, I could be all wrong about this. I could be all wrong about this. Because also I know that it's true that these moods are also so physiologically linked, and you know the physiological experience is so present as well. So I don't know. Maybe what I'm saying here is only a fragmented, partial truth. Well, that's a given. That's for sure. Everything that I am saying is only a fragmented, partial truth, and it's only really in a sort of meta experience of talking or of hearing that any greater kind of truth can be apprehended. And that's the part about this that I have to keep reminding myself of you know, just continuing to talk and not like not stopping and thinking about things too much. Just keep blabbering, just keep letting the words fall out. Because really it's this meta experience of talking that interests me the most. And this comes, you know, in light of what I just said about practically any given statement that I could possibly say is necessarily a fragmentary perspective on reality. Ow, my toe. Whoa. I mean, something can be said for synthesis and distillation of ideas into something that's relatively compact and functional map of reality. That's what we're after here. And so it's like, I feel like I need to be open to really anything that any perspective that contains truth. I want to be open to all of that, and maybe, just maybe, if I'm able to hold all of these seemingly disparate perspectives, I could someday I don't know, be able to see some kind of unifying map of reality. And so this walking and talking process is really helpful in that it pressures me to just stay, to just have a relatively continuous, look, I'm in the line of fire, have a relatively continuous like observation of my own thought movement. And you know, in the span of 4 hours, it changes so much. I can and my perspective will change so much, and things I think about, I don't know, though, you know, any particular idea, while at the moment of saying it, or maybe even just at the moment of thinking it, and before it even comes out of my mouth, it seems to possess the quality of the immediate truth. But then often, and sometimes as soon as it does come out of my mouth, and sometimes before I've even finished the sentence that I'm saying, I'll notice its partiality, or that it is having the effect of obscuring another truth. It's fragmentary, it's limiting, and just continually noticing that for a long period, it helps me to just get a longer view of my thought process, and to maybe get a little bit of insight onto the nature of my thought process itself. And it helps kind of, it does kind of debase certain things that I might otherwise be holding in my head as more solid truths. Damn. Pew, pew, pew. Pew. Pew, 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 pew. Look, it's fun to be standing here where at another point in time we would be getting shot to death. Smells like rubber. Look at these things. It's kind of like tire rubber. Well, it's obviously not stopping these bullets. But even with all that, it's not like I ever arrive at any kind of conclusive understanding of anything, really. It's like that maybe what I'm saying could be called delusion, in that we're in the process of truthing. We're truthing as a verb. We're not there's no noun truth to be arrived at. There's only truthing as a verb. There's no need to call myself a truther. That's a little too nouny, I'm just truthing. And as soon as this episode is over, it's not like we won't possess any truth. I'm telling you now, you're not going to possess any truth. Boy, it feels fun to just stand behind these shooting targets, because in the back of my mind, I'm just wondering if somebody's going to show up and start firing off some rounds, pumping me full of lead. Cool. What could I put here as a target? We'll we'll leave this as potential. This is something I like to do, you know. If I have an idea, like I have an idea of, you know, putting something funny here as a target, I love to just not realize ideas, because then you just leave them as a potential, you know. And also, really, it's great to just avoid having ideas, because it's like, you know, I end up having so many damn ideas that just so many that it would be impossible to realize all of them. And like the idea existing in my head, like for instance, you know, like a project or something, I visualize in my head the material existence of something that does not exist. And projecting into the future a world that has this thing which previously did not exist. I mean, that's something I am really attracted to. That is something that I kind of want to do, is bring into existence things that didn't exist before. But it's like I have just so many of these ideas, and every time you engage in the process of bringing one thing into existence, you are also, you know, denying all these other possibilities. But you know, that's what I'm doing now. I'm bringing this particular video into existence and denying all the other infinite potential realities that I could be manifesting. So that's what so when I just let an idea just like continue to exist as potential, or better yet, let that idea manifest, or not manifest, like disappear back into the potential from which it came in my mind, that feels even better sometimes. Whew. And better yet, you know, make it so those ideas don't arise in the first place. You know, just to continue really existing in more of a no thought, no existence realm, really feels like a much stronger sort of potential. I mean, but then you don't even have to really necessarily think of it as potential exactly, but it's like returning to the unity from which the world manifests. Like that's what you can do when you get rid of you know, this existence of linear time and of constant thinking and thoughts and ideas manifesting. Like, yeah. And you get out of this realm of you know, I need to get something. I need to do something. I mean, yeah, and then like, you know, sometimes that's happening to me you know, sometimes when you don't see me on camera. But again, need I remind you that absolutely everything I say is still just a partial and fragmented truth, because there's still so very much reality to the, you know, just the vicissitudes of life. I gotta go eat something, I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta pay the bills, I gotta so on and so on, you know, keep my material, physical, emotional needs met enough. Met enough to make the space to really get into the non-functional, non-utilitarian, non-linear, and then beyond that into really the like unmanifest reality. You know, it oscillates back and forth. But maybe I guess what I hope is that, like, if I am able to enter that sort of unmanifest experience more often than the sort of experience of manifestation of my life or of creation can be experienced more vividly. You know, going into nothingness so that you can then like really experience the genesis of something. I'm just talking here. Out my ass, as they say. Yeah, like rock climbing. That's one of those things that I'm really happy to just leave as unmanifested potential for myself, you know? And I was thinking about this, about experiences. Like we want life experiences. What the hell does that even mean, you know? Like at the same time, I feel like the things that stand out in my memory as experiences, you know, I could also just kind of think of them as clutter, as junk that like is now like has a substance in my mind that seems to stay there. I mean, it's not like I'm always thinking about them, but it's like, well, it's like experiences can in my mind can exist in the past or in the future, you know, as either memories or projections. Almost same diff, a slight difference, but almost the same. But those are I feel like a kind of junk, in that they are they have a kind of like experiential solidity to them in their existence as mental constructs. It's like in the actual in the actual present of experience, I would say that experiences, or like in the like present, like sort of more verbal transitive experience, it's not like this is a noun, you know? It's not like this experience, you and I, what you're experiencing now. This isn't an experience per se. In your if you are experiencing it truthfully. But the experiences in the more noun sense that could be past, present, or future is really more of a conceptual reduction of reality that we keep around in apparent solid form, which is to me like feels like clutter that gets in the way of the good stuff to me. And so this isn't like an argument against doing anything in particular. I guess it's more of just like, maybe it's just an argument against the sort of conceptual reduction of experiences as such. Because, you know, once they have this objectified form, then it's like they become, then they are subject to all the problems of materialism and wanting or rejecting. I kind of think about traveling a lot about in this sense. Even though it seems to be beneficial for my dopamine or some other neurotransmitters or something. But, you know, what good is that in the long run? Considering the fact that our neurotransmitter system is always balancing itself out. Like there's sometimes where I feel a temptation to be attendant towards the tone of YouTube commenters and say something that rationalizes what I'm doing in terms of, you know, like well-being, utility, and whatnot. But then I'm just like, no. There's no fucking reason to go there. Sucks to be you, non-walkers and talkers. Not really. You know, I don't really feel that way. You know that I know well and clear, well and good, or however they say it, that every little cranky and judgmental YouTube comment is still a manifestation of it's efflux. It's part of the many, and it's part of, it's that kind of the worldview that these YouTube comments are reflective of. We have to have some respect for that worldview as a necessary structure that paves the way for higher structures, higher, more transcendent worldviews. And I guess to be a little more specific about what I mean is that, oh, turtle, my day just got better. It's like, of course, this doesn't exactly fit in the rational utilitarian worldview, especially the very materialist one that is really, kind of like dominant on YouTube. You're not getting like walking, talking doesn't really offer you, the viewer, much in terms of like the emotional reward of feeling like you've understood something, like you've finally grasped something. Like there is an emotional neurochemical payoff that happens when someone grasps something. They learn something. Oh, I got it. Cool. I feel good. And there's so many YouTube videos that really give you that gratification because they explain something they take a concept and they explain it in concise terms, and it seems conclusive, and it's like in 10 or 15 minutes, and you're like, oh, cool, I understand Stoicism now, or whatever, and or like, I understand some kind of like pop psychology concept now, in a way that's very validating and affirming, no less. And so, like, yeah, that makes sense in the rational structure, and it's like maybe at times I say things that have some explanatory power, but the nature of the continuous nature of the 4 hours, and my commitment to be as honest as I can with regards to the truth of what I'm saying, that, or to put it another way, that I'm gonna keep admitting when something that I've just said now seems either false or only partially true, and that there's more to the story, and that we can't just like wrap these things up in nice little boxes in our minds. I don't really give you that payoff. It's not as easy. But I think maybe for certain people who are on a similar wavelength to me, maybe if they are kind of resonating with this process of truthing, or if just continuing to go on and think and talk and interrogate everything. I guess what I'm saying is if you're the type of person that gets emotional payoff from this type of YouTube video, then I'm a little bit in awe of you. I have a great amount of admiration because you in order for this to be something that is emotionally gratifying for you, you really must adhere to a very high standard of living authentically, It would mean that you have chosen not to invest yourself emotionally in things which you have now perceived to be transitory or empty or fragmentary or surface level. You've disavowed granting those things any ultimate substance. And so I could say you are attendant to the void. In Simone Weil's words, or Simone Weil, which to me is really sexy. And I have to admit that sometimes I'll have thoughts of entering the fray of the more conventional YouTube video, of writing and production values and editing and concise explanations on specific topics, because I'm like, oh, if I did that, I could give everybody the payoff. the payoff of understanding, but it's not real understanding. It's fragmentary. It's limiting. I mean, it's limiting if you take one of those understandings and feel satisfied with it, you know? If you, I mean, to the extent that you derive satisfaction and contentment from it, and you feel content as adopting that as part of your worldview, you know, and I mean, like, whatever philosophical or psychological or whatever other informational thing you've watched in the span of a few minutes, to the extent that you derive this contentment or satisfaction from it, it means that you are in danger of limiting your experience to that viewpoint. Whereas there are actual transcendent viewpoints. Whereas, like, you know, if you can go from discipline to discipline, from worldview to worldview, and have merely translative understandings. That is, like, you could understand things from a sociological point of view, or you could understand things from a psychological point of view, and they're kind of just different. They're on the same plane of mapping reality, but from one to the other is merely a translative change, like different languages. But to get to the place where you can understand, like, where you can see the truth in all of those things, but see just the partial truth, you can see those truths as being, you know, true but partial, from a transcendent viewpoint. But yeah, like I was saying, I've felt a temptation, you know, what if I entered that realm of just, you know, making like 15-minute long videos that explain a certain thing, and have some flashy editing and are pleasurable to look at. But then when I get out here and I just start doing this, then like all of that, like, then, like, that's when it becomes clear why I haven't done that, why I don't do that. Because doing that would not really be generative. It would just be, it's more like just being exploitative in a way. I mean, it could be helpful to certain people on a certain level, but they're just, for me, they're like, there really is if I have this potential in my life to go after the realest truth that I can, it would be a shame not to take that opportunity. because doing this does actually feel, for me, generative, at a higher level. And you may cringe at the phrase higher level, and understandably so, in that you know, people tend to like to posit themselves as being at the highest level of something. And mind you that I am not proposing any kind of hierarchy of value or of power, because I am very much acknowledging the necessity of everything that we have now, all the worldviews that we have, as necessary links in the chain of evolution. You know, evolution of worldview, evolution of consciousness. You know, that we have had to have all of the structures of consciousness that we have had, and all of the structures of worldview, of understanding what we have, which build upon each other, to get to where we are today, and to get to where we might go tomorrow. Like, just thinking about the evolution of say the human worldview. Like, when humans lived in hunter-gatherer societies, you know, small groups, subsisting very directly from and whatever untamed natural world, we had a animistic, magical understanding of the world around us, that very much served our survival and served us in interacting with the world. And then when we started to settle into agrarian society, then we needed to start cooperating on a grander scale, more complex and grander scale, which is actually like a little bit more, that required a little bit more mental abstraction to, you know, understand that the division of labor and how to, and specialization of work, and how all of that interrelates, and how to cooperate on a scale that's larger than just the people that you know. And so it's like the monotheistic, mythical paradigm, in which things happen because God makes them happen. And we you know, pray to God if we want to change things, rather than praying to the spirits of the forest or the spirits of animals that we're directly interacting with. So we have this worldview of things happen because God makes them happen, corresponding with the now hierarchical organization of society. And we still have these worldviews, like maybe, I don't know, is it most of the world today still believes in God of some sort, like a personal God? I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers. But it's become clear, increasingly clear, as these various monotheistic religions, or not necessarily monotheistic, but theistic, start to come in more contact with each other, and your religion dictates that all the other ones are wrong and they are all heathens, but our understanding of the world is like increasingly at odds with that understanding of that worldview. It's like we have this we have kind of a schizophrenic thing going on, where it's like people go to their church and pray to their God, and ostensibly believe that he is the creator and the one true God, and that these other religions, which we know very much about, and know that they also have millions of followers, ostensibly we believe that they are wrong and that they are all going to hell or whatever. So that's what we do in church, and then we have the rest of our lives where more and more in the modernized world we practice tolerance and democracy, or we're living we have these conventional religions, but we're really materially living in a post-conventional society. And so increasingly people are starting to look for alternatives to that, and to a more post-conventional religion, you could say. A religion that can actually, or I mean, like, whether to call it religion at this point is questionable, but an understanding of reality that has more not just explanatory power, but that seems to correspond a little bit better with what we can observe than like Yahweh or Allah or whoever created the world and is going to punish everybody else who doesn't believe in him. What was I talking about that seemed more interesting than this? I guess I got there, oh yeah, I guess this was me trying to explain the notion of hierarchical structure of worldviews. Now I'm not talking about the hierarchical structuring of society that exists in conventional societies and corresponds with conventional religion. I'm not talking about hierarchical power relationships, but I'm talking about hierarchical nature of understanding of worldviews. That there are worldviews that are on higher levels, so to speak, in that their explanatory power is able to encompass much more of what we can observe than others. And so the others functioned for a long time as societies developed in relative isolation, and now once these societies are becoming increasingly in contact and in interaction with each other, then we need something that is able to encompass all of that. Which is why we have to stop being theist. Eventually. Well, I mean, if human society continues, if human society is going to continue, then a post-conventional, post-theist worldview is going to have to become predominant over theist conventional religions. Because that already corresponds so much better to the scientific, rational, technological world that we live in. And then we still even are going to need to move beyond that. Let's look at little things for a while. But I better just keep going ahead and talking, because I think I talked for a while, kind of explaining a certain scheme that's already existed in my head, a scheme which is really informed a lot by Ken Wilber. And maybe that's not really the most generative and honest way for me to be talking. Because well, this is really interesting to see how my talking shifts between things like observing my firsthand experience and commenting on the behaviors of my thought in more or less real time, and then somehow shifting into explaining much more abstract things. And it feels increasingly apparent to me that all of this stuff, all of these are very linked. That is, things like, ooh, is that a frog? I think I just saw a toad or something. I saw something hopping over here. Where'd you go? Don't tell me it was just a leaf. Oh, there he is. Look at that frog. Hey. Somebody want to identify that frog for me? Nice camouflage. Hey, you're letting me touch you. Are you not going to jump away? Wow. Steely Reserve. This frog does not give one F. One flying F. I am the frog whisperer. Let me get this thing off of your eye. Boy, if I were a predator. There he goes. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, about my individual subjective experience being inseparable from the more objective world. And my experience of the so-called like direct experience, like seeming to be inseparable from abstract thought, ultimately. Like, if I talk about having an experience of no thought, or experiencing the unmanifest, where it's like, you know, like myself, my body is unmanifested as something separate from the rest of the world, and also like the outside world is not manifesting because I'm in a state of like inner absorption. Well, it's obvious that that kind of experience isn't all there is. And I have no evidence to say that that kind of experience is fundamental to other things. And I have no kind of experience, I have no kind of evidence to say that that kind of experience is independent of my abstract understandings of the objective world. You know, things that I've read, learned, heard, observed. And indeed, I'm pretty certain that without a certain amount of, I don't know, without a certain like level of intellectual understanding of the world, or like the worldview that I have, that like that type of inward absorption would have to be framed very differently, you know. If I grew up in the Christian world and there never occurred to me really even any alternative to the Christian faith, that was just, you know, the water that I lived, that I swam, the air that I breathed in terms of my worldview, then like an inner absorption would have to be probably interpreted as communing with the Creator, or whatever the view. I mean, Christianity has a kind of big disadvantage in that in most forms of it, we don't, in most forms of it, you don't ever get the notion that you could actually commune with God. You can only kind of pray to God and make requests of God, and try and follow his laws and stuff, but the notion that you could actually connect with God, or transcend your humanness even for a moment, and kind of like experience the actual qualities of God, like, that's not even really hinted at. It's like you really are, you know, you really are kind of defiled, and it's through these just kind of like more I don't know. I'm sure there are exceptions to this. And maybe it's not so different from other worlds, or other worldviews, or the one that I have now, in which I am continuously kind of apprehending my own defilement and constantly attempting to transcend it, but always failing. Maybe that's not so much different from your typical Christianity, but it's framed very differently. But it's true that I think in most forms of Christianity, it's like, you just do specific concrete things, or even just say specific concrete things that, I accept Jesus Christ as my Savior, in order to after you're in the afterlife, have no suffering. Like in the afterlife, get the big payoff, heaven, or like ongoing orgasm, or whatever heaven is like. But there's no notion that in this life there's any possibility of transcending our flawed humanness. Boy, I'm rambling a lot. Or that it's like each kind of... I might be talking about a subject for a little while, and then there's a little tangent, and then I talk about that tangent for a while, and then that tangent leads to something else. And that's fine. I think maybe a good thing about doing this more often and doing things to develop my abilities of attention and focus, and memory perhaps, is the advantage of, over the long term of the 4 hours, to be able to remember to return to things that were only hinted at, to remember to come back and to have a very long-term coherent form. I think that's where this could improve. I think there are some episodes where I did that relatively well, and then some which the overall form doesn't make as much sense per se. But it's a matter of like extending the capacity for attention over longer duration. So that I don't have to, keep jumping to a very different subject or mode of talking in order to keep myself interested. And that's the sort of thing where decisions that I make in my everyday life become really important. Like I feel like I really should avoid the sorts of things that degrade my capacity for attention, which sadly to say are the things that bring me immediate pleasure. Whoa, that's a big machine over there. Immediate sensual or intellectual or otherwise emotional gratification are the sorts of things that tend to, I think, tend to degrade my qualities of attention and focus and willpower. And that's just what that is really just to kind of clear the way for deeper absorption into whatever I happen to be doing. But then again, this is something that I was attempting to articulate at the very beginning of this video. So this gives me a little bit of hope that now I'm returning to something at the beginning of the video that I seem to lack the capacity to explain, but it's like, so I'm saying that, you know, I want to be more focused in my everyday life. And so what exactly does that mean? And the thing that I am sort of discovering is that whether I am focused or not seems to depend on the conceptual framework around what I'm doing. That is how I kind of classify what my life is, what are the things that constitute my identity, like what are my core activities that I'm trying to focus on. And I haven't quite succeeded in saying what I'm trying to say yet. Bear with me for a moment. This other complicating factor is that, you know, if I'm saying that I want to focus myself, I'm calling upon willpower and strong intention. And then when I summon intention, then I start to observe a sort of way that intention kind of arises. And that it's like intention is not coming from some kind of special locus of control that is in a you know, closer to the real me or whatever. Like I don't see this real me that has this locus of control, this source of intention, because I can observe various intentions arising at different times. And so it's like I observe this desire for something like focus, but then I'll also observe I'll also like what will come into view for me is the mind state or the temporary perspective that I had that led to that desire, and then it will become a little bit debased. I feel like I'm not doing a good job at explaining this. I mean, one way to say it, the unflattering way to say it, is that one day I might feel super committed to something and be like, I'm gonna focus on this for really hard for a long time now. I'm stopping all my messing around and I'm gonna get serious and I'm gonna focus on something. And then after a few days or whatever the time is, some different perspective will occur to me, and I will see this focus as either I'll understand this focus as being a limitation of sorts, or I'll see this possibility of focusing on something else as being just as reasonable. How could I put this? Like, let's take as an analogy this episode of Walking and Talking. Let's take this episode of Walking and Talking as an analogy for my life. And so let's say, okay, I'm gonna stop drifting around aimlessly in this episode and just focus on talking about one subject. But the thing is that, like, the boundaries of that subject are subjective and almost arbitrary in a sense. And so, like, what it would even mean to stay on one subject is like becomes just like diving into fog, or just things being not solid. I feel at a lack here to explain. But this is interesting. Like, I'm like feeling at a lack. Wanting to achieve a certain type of explanation, wanting something that feels unclear to become clear. Nice cottonwood inner bark. This stuff is like really good for starting fires. And so, you know, in this moment, having spent some time feeling as if I'm struggling to explain something, and finding my attempts at explaining something to like kind of come up negative. Now it's like the question of focus, like, is my object of focus now is it like the struggling thought process? And obviously now I'm starting to observe, I'm starting to you know, make observations on a struggling thought process. And so this has now become the thing that I'm talking about now. See, here's the thing about focus. Is it on, do I focus on what I happen to be doing right now, or do I focus on something that I remember doing in the past? And so focusing on what I happen to be doing right now is interesting in that when I actually observe what I happen to be doing right now in this acutely present moment, I cannot credibly attribute what I happen to be doing right now to my own intention and my own willpower and agency. Because it's like for instance, I was struggling. I didn't intend to struggle, and then I found myself observing that struggle and commenting upon my struggle to explain something. And that act of commentary was neither something that I brought about through my own like agency and willpower. It's just something that has like arisen in this process of talking, and more, especially right now, I'm merely just experiencing talking. It feels more and more like there's no agency here, there's just talking happening. And in this moment I feel it particularly strongly, and it's really enjoyable actually. And it's also brought me back into this thing that I've experienced before of starting now to observe my abstract linguistic thoughts occurring immediately before they become spoken by my mouth. And I'm just I'm just witnessing this process of thoughts forming, and I feel like I'm just witnessing the motor actions happening of my mouth and my tongue and voice and stuff, as well as walking. The video stopped. Hopefully it hadn't stopped for too long. But I'm saying that like I'm having battery malfunction. I think we're good to go now. It's gonna run out. Damn it. Stay connected. Stay connected to the battery, please. It's so funny. Like I was just starting to feel a sense of flow happening, and then the camera dies because for some reason it's not accepting the charge from the external battery, and then I'm like, damn it. I was just starting to feel a transcendence of selfhood developing, and then conditions went wrong, and then I got frustrated. That's how that always seems to happen. Dang it, darn it, dang it. Oh well. Suffering. problems. They keep existing, darn it. Seemingly despite all the transcendent potentialities. Dang it! Well, I can say that the camera's working at this very moment. How long that'll continue is completely unknown. Technology. Anyhow, I was saying that well, I mean, I was going off. I was going off about how I was beginning to just experience talking as a phenomenon that was not originating from my personal agency and intention, but something that was just sort of happening. And here's one thing, is that it's not that my understanding of selfhood like vanishes and disappears. It's a little bit more like my perspective like comes up a level, and then I'm just like observing it from above or something like that. And from there it's just like observing yourself selfing, you know, observing everything that we associate with selfhood just kind of like happening, but now being a more transcendent subject, observing our typical subjectivity now as more of an object, not as an object, but like observing it objectively happening or something like that. And it feels like everything in the past is like leading up to that experience. It's like then I start to understand things like the past and the future as being components of this experience, of this very present experience, of things, and like like understanding all of the identification of with individual selfhood, and understanding identification with thought as this component of the past, but the past being a component of the present as merely a kind of just kind of like like texturing or of the present, like kind of like past and future being kind of like optional viewpoints on the present. Being like optional elaborations on the present, or yeah, like you can fold the present up to make it look like the past or the future, but it's not necessary. sense, everything's, I don't know, in a sense, everything's all at once. But one of the things that I was saying that's kind of paradoxical is that, so like, I don't know, when I'm in a day-to-day life, and I'm not doing things like this, sometimes it can be hard to convince myself that I should go outside and make a 4-hour video of walking and talking, because I'm like, what's that gonna get me? What's that gonna do? Because it's hard to, you can't really remember this type of experience. Because it's larger. It's larger than you know, anything of the material world. It's larger than anything. It's larger than what can be understood by the rational mind. And so, like, if I'm caught up in my rational life, which we all must be very often in order to, you know, keep things going, it seems like, it's hard to grasp this kind of perspective, and it's hard to keep in mind why to kind of like drop rational concerns and come out and do something very pointless for a long amount of time. But then when you do it, then you realize something, that you experience something that, yeah, that doesn't fit into the linear conception of time, and it doesn't fit into memory, really. I mean, it doesn't fit into memory because it exposes memory for what it really is, as being just kind of like a structure that's here and now. That's, you know, as being an abstraction from the here and now. And then one starts to kind of like experience everyday normal life, or, you know, like, it's like from this perspective, like everyday normal life, the vicissitudes seem like a limited viewpoint. But, you know, when you're in that, it's not like it feels limited. Actually, it does sometimes. It does to me. Like, I really often, you know, maybe I'm just like sitting on the computer, checking email or something like that, or looking at YouTube or something like that, or doing something or other, and it just feels unsatisfying, you know? And it feels unsatisfying because I seem to have, I just have a sense that there's something lacking. There's that there's a broader or deeper perspective on reality to be had. And like I've said many times, it's not like those typical things are pointless, or it's not like they're really like inferior in a real evaluative sense. But I guess it's just that I want in my life for them always to be in service of this type of experience, to just do just enough, do just enough in the rational concrete world to allow for a trans-rational clear perspective to proliferate and to this, and what I'm saying is also untrue in a sense, because when you have an experience that's like not linearly temporal, and you have an experience that is of eternity, it's like it no longer matters how long it took you to get there. Like all the struggles and worries aren't really mattering to you, that led up to it, and they seem to be making sense and fitting into this worldview. But I want to be careful not to kind of like sell something as being ecstatic or blissful. It's not that exactly. It's not exactly an emotional high that you need to be grasping for, but I don't know. Maybe it's okay and maybe inevitable to be dropping seeds of another kind of desire. A desire without object. Maybe it's okay to make certain varieties of experience appear newly unsatisfying. Because maybe to the extent that it is unsatisfying, we'll all be driven to a more transcendental plane of experience. It's like I always hesitate to kind of describe anything as desirable, or to in any way imply that there's like specifically something lacking in your life. Which is true from the standpoint that it isn't about it isn't about attaining anything. I don't know. What the hell? I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. That's not true. I might know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I guess a thing is that now I do seem to be speaking in terms of there being an other to this experience right now, you know, this intersubjective experience. That we are indeed sharing, which maybe I started to forget about. I started to forget a little bit about the fact that your subjectivity, which is right here and now, this experience that you're having right here and now, is in fact completely integral to my subjectivity that's happening here and now, and mine would not be like this if it weren't for this experience you're having right now. Like this your experience, like this is why I'm doing this. This is why my experience now has some form of exalted quality. They're totally interlinked. It's this communion, this communication / communion that's occurring right now that is the core of this experience, which now doesn't make sense really. It doesn't make so much sense now to refer to it as your or my experience. That there just is experience. Like there's not loneliness right now. And also the I think the technological component contributes to the atemporality of this experience. Like it seems likely that my subjective experience of atemporality while doing this has something to do with this recorded medium and its atemporality. That is, like for instance, you're experiencing this right now, and I'm experiencing this right now. But if we viewed from a linear temporal perspective, there's some gap between us and between everyone else that is viewing this at different times. Maybe some of you are watching this as the premiere, meaning that there is some number of people viewing with the shared linear temporality or simultaneity, and then some people are watching after the premiere, so like a more dispersed temporality. But it's not really important because, well, I mean, for one thing, the idea of an objective now has been debunked scientifically. We find that that time is in fact relative to the perspective from which it's being experienced. And that's kind of like the objective way of looking at it, but also just subjectively, like, look, it's just now. We're all, look, like this now is just all of our nows. And in that sense, it's the same, regardless of what time. It's like this, look, this now is the fundamental thing. The time, the concept of time is an abstraction. It's like kind of layered on top of that. Whether other people watch this at different time period or whether I filmed this at a time in the past is all abstraction that's layered upon this experience of now that we're all sharing. I mean, we're sharing a significant, we're sharing something, this communication, this understanding. Still, even I feel okay. So like this experience feels it feels deeply good to me. It feels fulfilling in a deeper sense than almost anything else I can imagine myself doing. And yet still I feel the potential become more focused in it. Here we are back at focus. Cool, we have a topic. We keep returning to focus. We're focusing on focus itself. What better subject to focus on? Dang! See? There it is! Things make sense? What else have we been talking about other than focus? That's the thesis. It's not a thesis. It's what we're focusing on. Like, I feel potential to be even more focused though in this. You know, it's me. I'm doing this and having the experience that I've had many other times while doing this, of like, why don't I do this like every dang day? Why don't I do this more often? Why don't I do this on a very regular basis? You know? Why aren't I more consistent with this? And then, you know, after this is over, this type of experience will fade and I'll be in everyday life, and you know, like logical things will take over, and the importance of doing this on a regular basis might start to fade from the foreground, and then I, you know, we'll experience this, right? With something that we're like trying to commit to. When we get overtaken by more immediate gratification of certain urges. Like, I could keep doing this, like, and get barely any YouTube views, and I should still keep doing it. Even if I got like no YouTube views, but it was still out there, available, I should think I should keep doing it. Because it's still bringing this into being, and it's still, as long as the potential for communication is there. Because, you know, and especially in an atemporal fashion, meaning like somebody could, some consciousness could perceive this like hundreds or thousands of years from now. But honestly, not even that's important. Like, not even like some person watching this, or you know, future being watching this is important. Because I believe that I believe in this evolutionary nature of consciousness. It feels as clear as day to me. Like, it feels as clear as Darwinian biological evolution feels to me. And that simply the act of bringing this into being, like one bringing my subjective experience of this into being, and two, materializing it, so to speak, into this digital medium, just like materializing it into digital information. And it is information. To me, like, I'm experiencing this and comprehending this, like, as being involved in the evolution of consciousness. Like, it's not dying with my body. I'm committing, like, I'm kind of like committing a particular variety of my experience to material information. That should have, that, I mean, it does already, and should have a life beyond my body. And so, that involves some abstract conception of the world and how the world works, and involves linear conception of time, but and it involves my abstract understanding of other subjectivity. It involves I mean, it involves, you could say, my abstract understanding of something that we could call panpsychism, and my conception of evolutionary processes of increasing complexity. But at the same time, it involves my subjectivity very much, in that I'm feeling like I'm feeling like experientially involved in this. In a way that, if you took just my subjective experience alone, would be compelling enough for me to continue. But a true understanding is that it's not really possible to just reduce everything to subjective experience, and that abstract objective understanding is in fact involved in subjectivity, and they, in a sense that feels real to me, are kind of one and the same. Which I know that's not something that makes any sense, but it's just something to sit with. Tight. That stream is tight. These woods are tight. What's this? Mountain laurel? Tight. Dang. I guess you could say that I'm trying to communicate something that seems uncommunicatable. But I just, which is to say that I just would love to kind of induce in you the sort of experience that I'm having. But not the sort of like would love to, in the sense that there would be a problem if it didn't happen, but in a sense that you if one wanted, you could call this activity love for me. You could call this a actualization or something of love, or you could call this activity loving or something. I mean, just like from my, at least from my like point of view. But that tends to be kind of a fraught word, but you can, if you want, you could just kind of, camera stopped again. I hope that my camera successfully repaired that file. Dang problems, dang it. Problems with communication. You could view this as me just desiring this type of experience for you, for everybody, and for everything that is conscious. And yet at the same time, I feel a kind of a confident and reassuring kind of feeling about reality. This feeling of like, despite problems and suffering, that, damn it, the damn camera, darn it, dang it, shoot, shoot, problems. Anyhow, what I was saying is that I feel like there's this inherent telos to reality in which everything's okay. I mean, I know I don't feel this way all the time, that's for dang sure. But right now it feels like, even with all the problems in life, in the world, all the suffering. And that, like, yes, in a very real sense, you gotta solve all of that stuff, and you have to experience your individuated self in ways that are painful and problematic. But that, like, the telos that this is all leading to is a state in which everything's okay. A state in which all those struggles make sense. I mean, there's still this, like, skeptical voice in my head that's gonna be like, yeah, you're gonna probably feel the opposite the next day. Might be true. If memory serves, I've felt this way before, and then I've felt the opposite before. But it's funny because, like, the times in which I feel the opposite are the times in which memory is really playing a greater greater role in things, you know. Linear time, remembering and projecting is more predominant in my consciousness, and the individuated self being kind of like the top level of identification, and you know, and this being the source of problems and suffering, of being like, life is nothing but suffering, or like, life is ultimately suffering, even if there's, like, some pleasant breaks here and there. Ultimately it's just back to misery and the inherently cyclically problematic nature of life. But, oh well, what are you gonna do? Ah well, that's life. Oh well. Well, it is what it is. But it sure is pleasant out right now. A little early spring day, you know, once you've really just, like, absorbed all the bleakness of winter and accepted it as the status quo, and you've totally forgotten what nice weather feels like. And then you get a little early spring day where it's warm and you're like, oh yeah, there's another side of reality I kind of forgot about. Damn, what is up, my internet friends? Damn. There's a, you know, sensual pleasure, but, you know, you have to actually go through this purgative resetting caused by winter. What would it be like to live in a tropical climate? I suppose that variable upon one's emotional topography would be evened out. And other factors would come to the fore. Like unstable governments and such. I have this experience, like, from the outside, it's like 4 hours seems like onerous or something. Like, oh, that's a lot of work. Isn't that gonna suck? Having to talk for 4 hours? But at the moment, from inside, it's like, damn, I have 4 hours to do this. Tight. Wow, it's kind of insane. Just how completely unstable, at least my perspective, is. In terms of any things that tend to be described verbally, linguistically, the quality of truthfulness is just so shifty. It's always slipping away. It's always wriggling out of my hands. And, in a way that could be seen either as terrifying or as like wonderfully expansive, but probably best not to attach any qualitative or emotional valence to it. Is what it is. But to put a positive spin on it, it's like to just have a human life, and you can even think about your specific human life. The fact that you are alive right now, and that there's this that there is this enormous potential for your consciousness to just expand into understandings and experiences that you cannot even conceive of right now. Is really exciting, I think. At the moment, asterisk. you know, but then, you know, like, it could be a bad thing. Like, I just like, just think about like really bad experiences. Think about like a bad acid trip, or like, or maybe like an experience that could happen in without drugs, but that like has a similar quality of just like all of your reality just like destabilizing, and like, you know, anything that seemed true to you just kind of like falling apart. Anything like your identity as a person, as a self, like becoming revealed as unsolid, and you know, is just kind of like falling apart and going into this total void of meaning. I mean, let's I've actually never had like, I never took acid before, so I haven't had like a bad trip, so to speak, but like from my understanding of that, it's like just actually like experiences of everyday life to me have had characteristics that seem to resemble what people describe of a bad acid trip. Like just normal life feels enough of a bad trip to me for extended periods at times. But that's one side of things. The other side of that, like, you know, it's like a process. It's like a process of like, it is kind of a process of destroying yourself. That's like excruciatingly painful, and it's like, you know, it's really the like core of suffering. But it really is like smashing up. You know, it's like, it means that like your structures of selfhood and of worldview are coming into friction with the world, and it's this friction that is going to have to just grind it down and smash it up into something that's more fluid, expansive, dynamic, more integrated, and deeper and broader. And so like at the end of that, it's something really expansive and full of possibility and exciting, and you know, is the opposite of this like experience of suffering. And so I'm saying, like, bad acid trips might be a good thing to go through, or just, you know, but you don't have to. You don't need drugs to like, you don't need drugs to have that kind of experience. You can just be sober and just keep observing, like, the you know, just, well, you know, you don't have to do anything actually. Just keep living, or maybe even not, and you know, by virtue of you being a part of reality, you will come into increasing contact with it, and as reality, you know, evolves and manifests, and you could not possibly be other than part of that. You know, you're truthing, and you can't really help it, you know. I mean, you can help it. You can. It seems like you can adopt an orientation towards truthing, as opposed to away from it and trying to resist it. You know, don't be afraid of the types of experience that tend to corrode your understanding of the world. And by corrode, I just mean like destabilize, you could say. But for me, it's like a repetitive. For me, it's like a repetitive and durational activity such as this is really wonderfully conducive to that. And like that's a form of stability. In a world that makes no sense. I want to go back up there. Listen to how positive I am. You know, I would say that I should watch this video next time I feel depressed, but no, not a good idea. Next time I feel depressed, I should go out and walk and talk. And then, you know, that's like, and that's the sort of thing that I need to convince myself to do, that I'm trying to convince you to do, to like not avoid those types of like what we typically call negative experiences. I don't know, but just to like, I don't know, I don't actually have advice. I don't actually have advice, because every piece of advice that I could say, there's like also a viable alternative. There's also like, could be even there could be a contradicting thing to say that would be equally true, I think. Like I mean, for instance, coming out and doing this, like, a period of time that avoids extrinsic sources of emotional gratification and reward. Maybe that's not even true, It is a nice day. That's, you know, it is a nice day in the woods. That's could be interpreted as an extrinsic source of reward. But it is like you know what I'm saying. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying. It's not sitting around watching a bunch of short YouTube videos and eating popcorn. It's not scrolling Facebook. You know what I'm saying? There's a real difference. It's not impulsively buying a bunch of stuff on Amazon. It's not sitting there reading and reading until your brain hurts. And then you have just merely another translative framework of your understanding of things. I mean, I'm talking about the difference between me doing this and me doing other things that I could be doing. It's not working for money. Maybe it's a little bit of that. Not really, though. But I guess what I'm saying is that long periods of anhedonia can come around in a pretty profound way. Dang. Tight. What is that, a limestone mine? We are in coal country, but I don't see any black stuff. I would like to think that your experience is more peaceful than it would be if you were consuming the alternative types of things that there are on YouTube that you could be watching right now. Or not exactly, not just more peaceful, but I guess just to have a broader perspective instigated. Just generating possibilities for to for aiding and abetting the evolution of consciousness. Doesn't that sound pretty new age? I sure think so. But I don't really have to talk about that in order for that to happen. And the thought just came to me, well, okay, then what should you talk about? And then I remembered that it doesn't matter, and I remembered just to keep letting words fall out of my mouth. Like this, and this, and this. But it would be cheating to keep saying and this repetitively for the rest of this episode. I'm walking uphill now, and as my experience has revealed, that often geographical characteristics of my experience correlate to mental experiences. That is, when I'm walking up a hill, I'll have the experience of it feeling like more work to keep talking, and if I'm walking downhill, talking will feel more like it's just flowing out of me. And other things, like if I make a circle geographically, then I'll find my thought kind of making a loop and repeating something, just kind of involuntarily. But now that I've observed that, maybe I start to do it consciously. I don't know. I feel, suddenly again, I feel like I just again woke up to my immediate experience. And I guess that just means a quieting of more abstract stream of thought that I was maybe not fully conscious of, and then my attention just kind of returning to my more immediate sensory experience, like bodily sensation and the more immediate sensory experience of talking and of thoughts occurring. And when that happens, then it's like, again, my experience of being an individual self with agency weakens, and I'm more have this experience of, yeah, observing myself thinking and observing myself talking. And I really think that these are the types of experience that people do tend to have when they're high. But you just have to realize that if you just go way into sobriety, you know, it's like those types of experience that you associate with being high are going to be just more embedded in your everyday reality. You know, maybe even including some of the negative aspects, perhaps. But it's like, yeah, it's like, that there's this real great advantage of like continual attention, or just like continuation on something, and not changing. Well, I don't know. But like I've had this feeling that like if I'm like continuously seeking altered states by, you know, particularly by doing drugs, then it's like it just introduces more discontinuity in my awareness, and I have this feeling that over the long run that could be an inhibiting factor of achieving a greater understanding and of these, I don't know, more subtle aspects of awareness to be integrated into the everyday. And like, yeah, this keeps just like pounding me over the head with like this thought of, why don't you do this every day? I mean, I'm sure that it would be hard, and that if I did it every day, I would probably run into some newer and more difficult challenges that I haven't experienced yet, just mentally, psychologically, emotionally, you know, because I wouldn't have, if I did it every day, it's like I wouldn't have as much quote unquote everyday experience, like normal life experience, to draw upon for this experience to feel somehow significant or exalted, and this would become the everyday. But maybe that would be good, you know, maybe that would be good. Would I fall into a rut? Who knows? It's okay to fall into a rut, especially if you experience yourself falling into a rut. If you experience yourself falling into a rut, you're like, damn it, I'm in a rut. It is a sign of progress, because you're like, what you were formerly identified with, now you are outside of and observing and objectifying, and you're like, I don't want to be just that. I want to be more. And like that's the necessary first step towards expanding. what you are. Is to just notice yourself being in a rut. Which is why I should do this every dang day. It's hard on weekends though when there's so many people out. It's really hard to focus. It's really hard to focus when there's a bunch of IRL people, you know. It's hard to remain in touch with the atemporal quality of this medium. Hey, here's my asterisk. I found it. See? Think about something enough, it'll manifest without you having to do anything. Asterisk. Not really true. Tight. It's quiet here. I should do this every day, my current self thinks to myself and says out loud. You know, every day is not nearly as pleasant as this. There's the dang old winter to contend with, assuming I stay here in this, at this latitude. But here's this version of me telling you that you have permission to hold me accountable for not doing this like a lot more often, you know, like at least every week, for crying out loud. Yeah, I'm giving you permission, this version of myself, to send me an email if I am falling off the wagon of if I'm not uploading videos. You have my permission to send me an email. You know my email address, sittingandsmiling@gmail.com. All one word. If I haven't uploaded in a long time, be like, yo, Ben, remember your past self that said you should do this every day. And then, you know, my future self will be like, yeah, but now I see things differently. So, you know, we'll see. I really love being able to hold in my mind the contradictions of repetition and difference, you know. The paradox of change and sameness, or consistency and variety. And like sometimes, actually very often, this feels like a big problem. That contradiction. Should I keep doing the same thing, or should I do something different? And it feels like a big problem. And then at a time like this, I'm like sameness and difference are not only different, they're also the same to each other. They're not contradictory, actually. It doesn't make sense, I know, but believe me, it's true. Asterisk. Sometimes it feels, I'll feel a tension with a contradiction in my life. Feeling torn between two apparent opposites. And it's never resolved by just going into one of those things. It's resolved by understanding understanding like the non-dual nature of those two opposites. Ooh! What critter do you think barfed that up or pooped that out? A predator has eaten something furry and then excreted it out of one orifice or another into this beautiful creation. Was it an owl? Was it a fox? Tight. Another reason for doing this every day is to not let the previous episode become objectified in my mind. To not let the previous thing take on too much significance. Because then if I'm not doing this and the thing that I did in the past starts to take on some kind of solidity in my mind, and then it's then I'm thinking too rationally in relation to that to get started on the next one. You gotta immediately let go of it and start on the next and just continue. Oh snap. Look at these shrooms. Much shrooms. Actually, I'm not sure which ones these are. They have this shaggy kind of toothy pore surface on the underneath. I'm off my mushroom identification guide. I'm slacking on my mushroom ID knowledge. It's gotten rusty. But you can tell me, you mycologists. Because as an object, this video is so dumb, you know? If I ever watch these videos back, I'm then involved in objectifying this experience, and it's dumb. They don't work as an object. But experientially, now, like this now as an experience works. You know what I'm talking about? This experience you're having, this experience that you're having right now, it works. This video as an object, this video keeps, the camera keeps stopping and repairing the file. I don't know why today. It seems like anytime you have a piece of technology that has these firmware updates, or you got an operating system that automatically updates, every time that it updates, it just introduces new problems. It's like, if it works enough, like, let me just not have the update. If it's working fine, just don't give me the damn update, because as soon as you give me the update, then it's gonna have a new error, a new glitch. It's gonna stop working with my computer, because my computer is not gonna be fast enough for your updated version now. You can't reverse the update. But anyhow, I was talking about continuing to talk. Is that a dryad saddle? It's not a dryad saddle. It looks, I don't know. Is it a birch polypore? Is that even a mushroom? People. There's people walking. Gotta hide from these people. Gotta hide from these people so I can remain in my atemporal little world. I'm not sure if my aim is primarily to communicate with people. I'm not sure. No, it's not about communicating with people. It's just about this experience. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking about this experience that you're having. That's what this is about. This is all about you. It's not about these people. It's because I can't communicate what I want to communicate in a short interaction. I don't really know how. In a short in-person interaction. I need a long time. I need a long time to get rid of time. Tight. Well, let me keep talking. Let me keep talking. You know, it is a sort of thing where even now in between talking, then the idea of talking becomes to take shape, you know? The idea of talking starts to take a form, starts to become, to some extent, objectified in my mind, this thought of talking. And then when it starts to become objectified, it's as if it becomes a problem. Like, you know, thinking about talking. What should I say? Is it going to be dumb if I say something? Why am I talking again? What's the point of this video again? These sort of problems. But then, and then, so it takes a little bit of overriding of that pattern to just start talking without having resolved any of those apparent problems. And then from the view from within the activity of talking, right now I'm actively talking and those problems just aren't there. It's like just talking, and those things are, it's not that they, it's like they just kind of like resolve themselves without it's like simultaneously answering themselves, but not in the form that one would think. Like, we're experiencing this talking now, and it's just like the question of it having a point isn't really a problem, or isn't really present, and it could be said in that sense, like that's the point. Like the point is to transcend the question of having a point. And that sounds awfully conclusive. But you know, but then it just reintroduces the problem on another level, you could say. It's cyclical. It continues to be generative and problematic simultaneously. You know, if we've achieved a point, and that point is to transcend the paradigm of pointfulness, then we still have to keep going. Know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. I want to tell you that skipping around this video won't help you. Like, there's not going to be any kind of reveal. I mean, there's not exactly a reveal. Not necessarily true, but it's more just like a sustained attention is really where it's at, and the particular content is subordinate to that, is secondary. The particular content is just kind of content that is in service of this activity of sustained attention. And sometimes it's about it, you know? We're about focus. But it's not, I mean, while this video is about, you can say that it's about focus, but this video isn't about what it's about. This video is about what it is. Cool, that sounds kind of quotable or something. That sounds like a nice, like, little soundbite. It's not about what it's about what it is. Cool. That's, see, I have to restrain myself from taking things, you know? I have to restrain myself from objectifying it, though, you know? If I take that, I could take that little quote and like, oh, cool, yeah, cool, I got it concisely. I got a little, you know, thing. It's a form of exploitation. It's a form of like taking a dividend out of what I'm investing in. What I'm investing in being the formless unmanifest. You know, all potentiality. Then if you take dividends, then it's like it weakens it. It lessens the potentiality. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, if we want a little short quote or something, that's not a bad one. It's not about what it's about what it is. You know, confusing. It's like, yeah, it's like this type of video doesn't work from the exterior. You know what I'm saying? Like this it's this talking about this video isn't interesting. It's just, you know, if you try to describe this video to somebody, it's like not compelling, you know? It's a guy walking around talking for 4 hours. Sounds super boring. Why would I want to watch that? But within, you know, in the experience of it, it's like, you know, there's something happening. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. There's something. It's not nothing. as we like to say here in walking and talking. There's this huge contrast between the feeling of not doing something and doing something. I mean, and it is a matter of conceptual framing, and that I'm within my conceptual frame of doing something. When I'm outside this framing, I sometimes feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm not really doing anything. Which is so funny because, like, a lot of people think the opposite, maybe about this YouTube channel. Like, think of all you could be doing, but you know, I feel like I'm doing something now, and I don't tend to feel like I'm doing something much of the other time. It's like, or I could say, like, I feel like I'm just kind of doing stuff, and it's unsatisfying other times. Oh, where am I going to end up? Am I going to end up back at where I started? That would be sick. Because then I wouldn't have to walk back. Or it means I'm already walking back. Or am I going to end up somewhere new and unfamiliar? I just see these bright colors ahead. I see this graffiti and I wonder if it is the place where I've been before. I've been here before. Hell yeah. Coming back, full circle. How convenient. We're close to the end of the video. I hope that all the video files were successfully repaired, so we're not missing anything. But even if we are missing anything, it's fine. It's fine, because we'll just continue. We'll just continue doing stuff, you know? We're not missing anything. There's no missing. There's just this. Whatever. Asterisk. This place is tight. Gotta come back here. Or not. Or go to another place that's tight. Look at that. A little, what do they call that? Rattlesnake weed? That's like a little type of orchid. Anyhow, I'm coming back now. I'm coming back to conventional reality in a way that's not unsatisfying. That's the good news here, folks. It's like after this I can come back to rational reality of just doing things. And feel fine with it, at least, you know, at least for now. Just doing stuff. No problem. Problems, no problem. Problems, it's fine. Asterisk. You can just assume that there's an asterisk after everything that I say. Like a perpetual disclaimer. Not, you know, not really. I claim truth, but not in the noun sense. I'm claiming truth, but only in the exact moment that I say something or think something, and then afterwards all bets off. I claim truth for this moment now that you're experiencing as a verb. I claim that you and I are truthin' hard. Let's keep it up. Don't cave. Don't cave into the naysayers or the yay-sayers. Don't just accept concrete, rational reality. I mean, yes, but not just. But actually, you know, go ahead. Actually, here's what I'm saying. Just accept as true the things that seem true to you. Just look at things. Is it true? To what extent is it true? Is it always true? Or is it sometimes not true? Actually, I'm not telling you anything. You can't help it. You won't be able to help but truth hard. But just don't be satisfied with stuff that isn't fully true. Don't be satisfied with things that aren't ultimately true. And nothing's ultimately true. So don't be satisfied with anything except the transitive experience of truth and hard to the extent that you transcend the transitive and come into a transcendent, eternal, experiential truthiness. And then it'll feel satisfying. And not. Asterisk. Where am I? Oh, I know where I am. Type. And it's okay, because once you get there, it won't matter how long it took. So you can be patient, but don't be too patient. See, I don't know. I gotta keep saying something, so I'll just kind of like pretend as if I have advice to give. Even though giving, the process of giving advice to be really authentic would have to be a never-ending, eternal process of continuing to adjust the advice to correspond with the slippery nature of truth. You'll never have enough advice. You'll never get the ultimate advice that you need. My advice to you is to stop taking advice. Asterisk. Actually, maybe you could use some advice. Nah. Maybe. I'll just keep talking We're almost done. It's weird, you know. I have to adhere to a temporal, you know, metered kind of measured kind of time frame, clock time, in order to have a broader experience of the illusoriness of time. It's, you know, it's quite a paradox. Ooh, whoa, this thing is heavy. This feels like metal. I think this is a piece of metal. How satisfying. I feel so ready to return to normal life. To the temporal life that won't be committed to information for the most part. But it will in a way. I don't know. And, ew. Ew. Ew! Ew! Let's stop this. Is it time? Let me look. I think it's time. All right, my internet friends. See you next time.